Shots fire. Anything you hear, Nicky, you on that spire. You don't hear them bums doing nothing that spire. Tell them catch fire. In the Bugatti, 10 grand, one tire. Ayo Madonna, me ear say you original dandada. In the Yagabana, in the Aya Parada. We material girls, ain't nobody hotter. Pops color. See, I really can't relate to your vow. And you can't get these shoes out of out. Now let a dude go, that's his loud. I was cutting them checks, I was his.
Sorry, I'm late. Class was torture.
Well, don't be a stranger. Sit down! You look like you're about to keel over.
What did you learn?
Why does it matter? It's just school. Do we really have to think about this right now? I'm so tired of thinking.
Well, if it held you back after class, it must have been important.
I remember now. It was the whole thing about if our nation was meant to be a Christian nation or a secular experiment, right?
Yeah, I don't know what to think though. I'm torn whether it's a Christian nation or just a secular experiment.
Our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people, inadequate for any other John Adams.
Do you think that America was supposed to be a secular experiment or a Christian nation?
I think the original intentions behind America were definitely to be a Christian nation. Because at the time where we declared independence, all the foundations were actually created on Christian morality and views, and that's actually where they wanted to lead their nation.
I don't think it was intended to be either.
No. Colonialists sailed from what was then the Empire of Great Britain to the New World. They were just looking, for a new place to live, and eventually, 1700 rolled on, and people realized they wanted freedom from the government because they wanted the freedom to do what they wanted.
And religious freedom is in the Bill of Rights. It's in the first, it's in the Bill of Rights and the Constitution. But I don't think it was intended to be a Christian nation. I think it was intended to give people the ability to worship how they wanted.
The Founding Fathers just did not take into account the fact that religion, Christianity, Catholicism, Protestantism might not be a relevant thing 250 years down the road.
Oh. Jacob and I were just talking about that. That's the whole thing in 1802 where Jefferson described the First Amendment as a wall of separation between church and state. I mean, we were obviously meant to keep the church out of the affairs of the state, right? I mean, it seems like that.
Actually, Jefferson's statement was directed towards a group of Christians who sent him a letter because they were concerned about his anti-federalist and deist leanings, and the way he described it was...
Government will not interfere with religion. Thomas Jefferson.
Can't that work both ways? I mean, can't it keep government out of church and the church out of the government?
Well, think of it in this sense. There are two cars going toward each other down a one-way street.
Let's go.
Even I know this doesn't work.
Separation of church and state was meant to be a one-way street, allowing religion to influence government. A union of government and religion tends to destroy government and degrade religion. George Washington.
What about the First Amendment, bro? It was clearly made to make the nation secular by having one denomination of religion preferred over another and stuff.
Oh snap!
Our forefathers came to the Americas in a time of great religious turmoil. James I had just murdered over 18,000 Scots who wanted no more than to just practice their own religion. John Bunyan, the writer of Pilgrim's Progress, was also imprisoned. These events would have been fresh in our founders' minds, and it would have gone into their thinking as they were forming the draft of the Constitution. They came to the Americas to practice the religion they weren't able to in the UK. In 1801, you have Fisher Ames, the founding father who wrote the First Amendment. In 1798, he expressed his concern that new books were being introduced into the class, and he feared that the Bible would float to the back of the classroom.
Jacob, you're running your mouth again! Typical of a man.
Well, as you can see from Fisher Ames' statement, The thought of the Bible leaving the classroom entirely was preposterous. It is obvious that they were talking, when they said, Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. They were talking about establishing a sect or a denomination of Christianity. They didn't want that to be impressed upon them.
Right, but isn't that being kind of a bit presumptuous? I mean, you're assuming you know what they were thinking.
It was sort of obvious. I mean, you have Ben Franklin, one of the most liberal of the founding fathers, calling for prayer on July 28th, 1787. In the middle of making the Constitution, it was normal for them, even to the most of the liberal of them. It was just common knowledge that there was a higher power.
Wow. My mind is like totally blown.
Go.
Well, maybe it was just a coincidence. Maybe their emotions were running hot. Doesn't mean that this was a Christian nation.
Any society that would give up a little liberty to gain a little security will gain neither and lose both. Benjamin Franklin.
There are other problems that concern the Constitution as well. You have the justices using the Constitution as a ploy to force their own morals upon the people.
Why so?
Well, you have Roe v. Wade in 1973. That was a controversial issue.
Whoa, Abigail, that's wrong. Roe v. Wade was a win for women everywhere. We got the rights to our bodies back.
It's not a win for women in the room.
I think it's also the ignorance where everyone sits there and believes, oh, it's just cells, oh, it's not developed. When really, if you look at the time scale, like heartbeats start, I think, after like 3 weeks.
Pretty much, yeah.
People they don't realize the facts and they just take in what everyone says because they want the easy way out. Like, people want whatever is just more simple for them.
Life? Well, wasn't it said by the court that life starts after the first trimester?
Do you see any of the justices in the Supreme Court who had medical degrees?
So, what's the problem? We got the rights to our bodies back, and you religious freaks got the rights to babies only being aborted in the first trimester.
First trimester? Have you seen what abortions have become? If the justices that decided that case, that Roe v. versus Wade case then, were alive today now, they would denounce the case on the spot.
Come on, girls.
Hi! Welcome to Planned Parenthood. I'm Teresa.
I'm Lisa, and this is Nina, and this is my daughter Joy.
So you're here for your appointment?
Yeah, I'm looking for an abortion.
Of course. How far along are you?
Well, this one's 7, and this one's 9.
Oh.
You know, so
Of course.
So you know, there's just too much for the new baby to handle, and you know, I just think it's just time. You know, these guys have been good for my life.
Of course.
But, you know, now it's just not good for my body anymore. I can't take the hassle. I just, you know, it's okay, girls. You're just gonna go be with Jesus.
Heaven!
Well,
Okay.
congratulations. We have a 2-for-1 deal today.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I'm just in a financial crunch.
Oh, of course.
I
Taxpayers pay all of this.
You know, we keep them, but my husband just lost his job, and there's too many orphans.
course.
This is the only. You understand? Yeah.
I understand. I've had 5.
Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. Thank you. So, what time?
We can get started right now.
Now you have Melissa Ohden, who was originally an attempted abortion, but who was saved by a nurse who overheard her crying. And most famously, you have Gianna Jessen, who was burned alive for 18 hours from the saline injection, only to be born alive and whisked away to a hospital. Gianna was not in her first trimester either. She was 7 months along before her mother finally decided she wanted to abort her baby. But Jessen did not die from the saline injection, which was supposed to have burned her inside and out. And lucky for her, the abortionist was not in, because in the days when she was attempted to be aborted, if a baby was born still alive, they were supposed to strangle, suffocate, and leave the baby to die or throw the baby away. That changed, though, on August 5th, 2002, when George Bush signed the law, the Born Alive Infants Protection Act, which kept infants like Jessen from the potential of being killed if they were born alive.
Wow, could that possibly be right?
Yeah, it's true. Liberals hate her because she stands up against the evils of abortion, calling it the silent holocaust that didn't take her.
What does this have to do with the Constitution? We're getting off topic here.
We're actually still on topic. Once given the okay, liberals and supporters of abortion went crazy and began to do whatever.
Hi, welcome to Planned Parenthood. I'm Teresa. What can I do for you today?
I would like to have an abortion.
Science was no longer viable to them.
Gosh, this sounds like a serious issue.
That's right, Daniel. It is a serious issue. But let's get back to the Constitution. What about the Second Amendment?
Isn't that protecting the right of the people to keep and bear arms?
It is. In the District of Columbia versus Heller case in 2008, the Supreme Court ruled that under the Constitution, citizens had the right to own guns and use guns for self-defense within their own homes. But what about if they're not in their own homes?
You can't just have people toting guns everywhere. What about the people that want to inflict harm on others?
There's your issue. You see, in Switzerland, every citizen is required by law to own a firearm. And Switzerland has one of the lowest crime rates in the world. And then you have places like the UK, where the guns are next to impossible to get, and you are twice as likely to be a victim of a crime than in the US. In Scotland, where your heritage is, Casey, it's 3 times.
Wait, I think I've heard something concerning this.
Daniel, you're awake? I thought you've been asleep this whole time.
I can be smart.
Then let's hear it.
In 1995, in Texas, there was a mass shooting. I believe it was in a restaurant.
Lovey's Cafeteria.
Yeah, that place. There was a guy rolled up in a truck, walked in and started shooting everybody. He hit 50 and killed like 27.
Yeah, it was the deadliest mass shooting in America until Virginia Tech in 2007.
Just like in Virginia Tech, Susanna Hupp had a concealed weapons permit, and because of Texas's law, you're not able to carry a weapon within 100 feet of the restaurant. She was unable to protect her parents from Hennard, as he brutally murdered her 2 parents.
I'm tired of fighting for peace. When I am alone on the front line, I need you to stand next to me. Baby, cease fire, fire, fire. Throw down your weapons, run your way.
She was a law-abiding citizen, and the laws that were put into place to protect her ended up making her the witness of the murder of her mother and father. It made her unable to do anything. You see, the Second Amendment is in there for a reason. The Founding Fathers know the evil committed if the innocent were unable to protect themselves. That's why we were given the Second Amendment. You know who else loved the fact that the citizens didn't want to protect themselves? Hitler and Stalin, who killed millions of innocents. This is what could have happened if the Second Amendment had been upheld in public places.
The phrase Christian nation is used. Many want to distort it, but it wasn't meant to mean that everyone is a born-again Christian. You see, the founders were influenced by a Christian world knowing. 34% of the Constitution was made up of biblical ideas, laws, and that the Founding Fathers knew would be fair. There were many checks and balances put in place on the government because the Founding Fathers knew that every man is evil, especially those in power. When people are afraid of the government, you have tyranny. When the government is afraid of the people, you have liberty. Thomas Jefferson.